YouTube channel. Today's class will learn how to make this beautiful flounce that we see on this skirt. It's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned till the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to be placing this design on this basic skirt that I already have. So this is the front bodice. What you just need to do is to measure the space that this design is going to go through. So it's going to start from around here, and then I'm just going to measure. This is the waistline, so I'm going to take my tape now and measure from here up to my seam allowance. I have a seam allowance of 1 inch here, so I'm going to stop my measurement on the seam allowance area, and there is a dart on this skirt, so I'm going to remove the 1 inch dart as well, so that it's not going to affect my measurement. So instead of measuring from here, I'm going to measure from the 1 inch, and then I'll stop here. So once I get here, I'm going to hold my tape rule and then measure it all the way to the hem of the skirt. So whatever measurements you have there, you have to note it down. Okay, so I have about 34 inches there, so I know that I need 34 inches as the radius of my flare. So I'm going to be drafting the flounce design on a paper so that we can see it well. So like I said, I have 34 inches to calculate my radius. You can actually cut this in form of a spiral flounce. I have several tutorials on a spiral flounce already. So a spiral flounce is the one that just goes like this, but I'm going to be cutting mine in form of a flare. So now for this flare, I'm going to be working with a half circle flare because this is not too full. You can also cut it in bias form. So to cut a half circle flare, I'm just going to fold my fabric into two. Then after folding it into two, I'm going to fold it in a triangular form like this. So now what I'm going to do is to divide my 34 inches by 3.142. that's a constant. So 34 inches divided by 3.142 is going to give me about 10 inches or so, or thereabouts, but I'm not sure my paper can take it. So I'm just going to work with a miniature measurement. Then I'm going to use it. So I'm just going to stop my radius around here, but you just need to measure the exact radius that you need. So after measuring your radius, you are going to measure the longest part. That's the longest length you want for the flare. So for me, I just want it to be about 6 inches long or so. So I'm just going to increase my radius so that this can accommodate. So I want it to be around 6 inches long, so I'm going to use that to cut out my flare, and then I'm going to reduce it later. So I have a length of 6 inches and then a radius of about 10.5 or 11 inches. So you need to make that calculation. So after connecting it like this, I'm going to take my paper scissors and I'll cut this out. It out and you open it, this is what you're going to have. So to shape this, on one hand, that is the part that is going to be on my waistline. Okay, on the part that is going to be on my waistline, I'm just going to curve it. You don't want it straight like this, so from here I'm going to curve it to blend with the curve line that I already have. I'm using my free hand to do this, but you can also use a curve if you can. Then after blending it like that, I'm going to come in with my scissors and then trim off this part so that I can have something that blends like this. So you can see that everything blends. So this part is going to be on the waistline. So now the next part I'm going to work on is the part that is going to go down like this. So for that, it is not so long. It's about 3 to 4 inches for me. So here I'm just going to measure the 3 inches like this on the other end. Remember, we've shaped the one that goes to the waist. So here I'm going to measure the 3 inches downwards, and then I'm going to try to blend it as well. So you can use your curve for this, but I'm going to use my free hand. So from here or anywhere, you just need to try to blend this in with the curve that is coming from your waistline. So you can see how I am blending this. Another thing you can do is, after measuring 3 inches here, you measure 4 somewhere here, you measure 5 till you just have something that rhymes. So after blending it here, what I'm going to do, so that I don't have this same strap edge on the other side as well, I'm just going to curve it in with my curve here. Okay, but because my radius is small, so it's a bit difficult for me to blend. So if you are working with yours, you're going to be working with your actual 10 inches radius. So after blending everything in like that, I'm going to come in with my scissors again, and then I'll cut this new shape that I have. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So this is the part that goes on my waistline, and then this is the part that just comes down like this. You can see how short it is because I did not work with my actual radius. So now I'll go and cut this on my fabric. I'll apply my gum stay on it, but you should use a color stay if you want it to really stand, and I'll bring it back to show us what it looks like. I've cut this on my fabric and I have applied my gum stay, as we can see. So this is the lining part, and you can see that the part with the waist area is curved like this, and then it just reduces to the other hand. So I'm going to be having this on my waistline, and then this is just going to bend to the lower part of my skirt. So you can see how small this is. So now I have cut my main fabric as well, and this is my main fabric. So I'm just going to lay it on my lining, right side facing right side, and then I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew. So now to give this structure, I'm going to be working with this 1-inch crinoline. I'm working with a 1-inch crinoline because of these small sharp edges. If you have a 2 inches crinoline, you can also work with it, but the other one I have is longer, so, and I don't want my crinoline to be poking out, so that's why I'm working with this 1-inch crinoline. So after placing them on each other like this, you're just going to place your crinoline, and then you go ahead and then sew it all around. So I'm going to sew this now and bring it back to show us. Okay, so I have sewn the crinoline to it like this. So the next thing is to flip it and iron. So after ironing it, I'm going to bring in my skirt now, and then I'll show us how we're going to fix this flounce to the skirt. So the flounce is ironed now, and you can see how flat it's looking. So you can just go ahead and serge this upper part so that it can be neat. So this is my skirt, and I've also taken my 1-inch dart, okay, just like I explained. So depending on where you want your flounce to start from, the widest part here, remember this part is narrow while we have a wide part. This wide part is what you're going to be placing on your waistline. So I'm just going to pin it down like this from wherever. It can start from your center from front, it can start from the that area, just like that, depending on where you want this to be. So I'm going to pin it down to the side. Okay, so when I get to this side, I'm going to just enter into my allowance a bit, and then I'll just turn. So you can see what I have. Once you sew up to here, you just flip it like this. Okay, so you do this carefully, and then you continue to pin. So when you are pinning it, you make sure that this rough edge is towards this side, so that by the time you place your skirt on it, it's going to, and you sew it, this rough edge is going to be inside, it's not going to show on the outer part. So now I'm going to continue to pin this like this, and then I'm just going to pin it into my seam allowance like that. So after pinning this now, I'll take it to the sewing machine, and then I'm going to run my stitch. So you just pin it all the way to the lower part of your skirt. So I'll go ahead and sew this now and bring it back to show us what we have. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew it. You can see I use the white thread so that we can see. I start from the dart area here. You can start from where the seam is going to be on the other side, but I just want mine on the dart. It can also be from the center front as well. So I just sew it like this. Then when I got here, I just turned it a bit. So when you're turning it, make sure that you stretch it well so that you don't have anything packing on the other side like this. So you just slightly turn your hand like this, and then you continue sewing all the way down. So you just sew a little into your seam allowance, so that by the time you put your back on it and then you sew it, it's going to be neat. So you can see the inner part, which is the front part. You can see how neat this is. So this is what we have now. By the time you flip it over, this is what it's going to look like. So now I'm going to place the back on it, and then I'm going to run my side stitch. Then I'll take it to the mannequin so that we can see what this looks like. So this is what the flounce looks like. You can see that it comes from the dart leg of the other side of the skirt, and this can be any length that you want. So from here it just turns to the side and it tapers downwards like that. So now that the back skirt is sewn, if you turn it, you'll see that it is neat on the other side as well. So here you can just beautify this with any fabric that you, any trimming that you have, or you just fix a band. So I'm just going to place this trimming, and you can see how this is looking now. So you can beautify this anyhow you want. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.